Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brad Lee Bombs is dropping
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, I've got a dude of all dudes. Used to freaking coach basketball. Took a few teams from zero to hero, and now he's blessing us with his presence. Stein Jr., welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. A Steezy, ready to drop some beezies.
Well, that is freaking exciting, only because the bombs haven't been flowing lately.
Oh, they haven't?
No.
Let's change that.
The button's been broken.
Has it?
Yep, but it's working now. So, as you know, if you listen to the podcast at all,
I do.
Then I am the bomb dropper. I am, however, going to get guests a bomb they can use.
I was going to say, I'm looking around at my desk. I don't see anything I can press here, so I'm going to trust you.
Everybody keeps requesting it, and I'm like, okay. I'll get a bomb you can drop. It might sound more like a fart, but, you know, I'm definitely going to give you guys a bomb you can drop.
I love it.
So, Alan, you were a coach of what? Give me a little history. Some of the Bomb Squad listeners may or may not have heard of you, but I want to give the benefit of the doubt to all the people that have not. And I don't want to butcher your story. Tell me about your background.
You know, I'm under the impression most of them haven't heard, and I love that. I like swimming upstream and going uphill. So, I was actually a basketball performance coach. So I handled the strength and conditioning, the fitness and the athleticism of the players I worked with. And I specialized mostly at the youth and high school level.
Okay.
But I come from Washington, D.C., and that's one of the probably top 3 or 4 areas for youth and high school basketball in the whole country.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know. There's something in the water, but we've produced some really exceptional players over the last 15, 20 years.
Are there a lot of tall kids there?
There are a lot of tall kids.
Well,
and of course, there's a lot of tall kids everywhere, but I think the D.C. metro area, for whatever reason, there's also some really good coaching in that area.
But you know what's crazy about D.C.? There's no tall buildings.
No, that's very true.
Why is that?
I have no idea. Because people would probably try and drop bombs and knock them down.
Oh.
Be my guess with the government there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They don't want to be an easy target.
Yeah, when I went there, I'm like, dude, why are there no tall buildings here? They're all little.
That's why the Washington Monument sticks out, and it's not even that big.
Interesting. All right, so you're from the D.C. area. There's a lot of talent around there, and you produce talent. How long since you've stopped doing this?
So 2 years ago, I made the leap over to the corporate side, but for almost 20 years, I was working at the high school level. There's 2 schools there in particular, Montrose Christian, which is where Kevin Durant graduated from.
And then did you know him?
I did, yeah. He was one of my players.
Wow.
And then DeMatha Catholic High School, which has been good for the last 50 years, and we've had a few NBA All-Star level players from there as well. And that's what kind of led me to get some gigs with Nike and with Jordan Brand and with USA Basketball. So I got a chance to observe and watch the best of the best, as well as work with many of the best players when they were back in high school.
Wow. Any coincidence that they're religious, faith-based schools?
No, not that I know of. It's interesting in the D.C. area. It's a very private school heavy area when it comes to athletic talent. That the public schools get diluted really quick because most of the players choose to go to private schools. And it's been my experience, most private schools are faith based of some sort.
Yeah, and I was always, where I was driving with that is like, you have to sometimes invest in people. And private schools have a little more money than public schools.
Yes.
And it's just coincidence that, private schools always have the best programs. You notice that?
Yeah.
Like here, my kids go to a school. Well, they have another school that they have. It's called Findlay Prep.
I'm very familiar with Findlay.
Dude, every kid on that fucking team is like 10 feet tall. I'm thinking, where are they getting all these tall ass kids? Like, It's impossible to find them all, just happen to be in the right neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, I realized, they go out and find and invest. Like, they want all the basketball stars coming to that place.
Yes. Very few of the Findlay kids that play on the basketball team are.
And Findlays are tall.
Oh, yeah.
Like the actual Findlay family.
Yeah,
they're tall.
I think that's what attracted them to the game in the first place.
Interesting.
But that team's pretty eclectic. They bring in kids from all over the world to play
when they lure them
prep.
And they lure them with the private school. Like
absolutely.
So back in high school, what's the hey, I'll buy you a car. Is there any of that going on?
I'm sure there is. What's interesting, at a program like DeMatha, where I was most recently, we have such a high track record of kids going on and playing Division I basketball and then going on to the NBA that you don't need to do anything to attract the top talent. It attracts itself. They want to come play at DeMatha. DeMatha's led by Coach Mike Jones, who's one of the finest coaches that I've ever been around at any level in any sport. And kids want to come play for him because they know they'll leave 4 years later best prepared to, fulfill their dreams of playing basketball at college and in the NBA. So, DeMatha doesn't have to recruit near as much as people are recruiting themselves to come.
Yeah. I like, when I was a kid, I was good at sports, but no one really to coach and mentor me. My dad wasn't really one of those parents that did that. But basketball was quick. I don't like guarding people. And when I did play, I was in junior high, and I freaking stole the ball out of the hands of the opponent. Everyone started cheering. I got so excited. I ran down, did a layup, made the basket, turned around, and realized it was the wrong basket.
Oh, man.
And the whole school was right there watching. Remember in schools where the whole assemblies and shit?
Absolutely.
The whole school was there watching.
Did that ruin your street cred, or did you have enough cred you were okay? You could shoot at the wrong hoop and everybody still liked you?
Nope.
You were done?
I quit. And again, I quit like a dumbass, and I didn't have any coaching and mentoring to say, bro, don't quit. Come on, man.
Right.
This shit happens. The coach didn't even do it.
Wow.
But I wasn't really that good at basketball. I mean, I was no star at basketball. And I hated guarding people. And you have to guard people.
Yeah.
So
that's half the game.
Yeah, and then wrestling. I went out for wrestling until some dude smeared my face in his armpit, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And so I quit that. And plus, you had to wear those stupid leotard-looking outfits.
Absolutely.
And then I found baseball and football. So those were my sports.
Well, it's good you tried some other things, figure out what didn't work before you found what stuck.
Yeah, I did track too. Did pretty good at track. But football and baseball was my thing. Never really got into basketball. I don't watch basketball. I'm not a basketball fanatic. But
Gotcha.
A lot of people are. What drew you to basketball?
It was my first identifiable passion. I mean, I remember being 5 or 6 years old and falling in love with the game. And, of course, I'm 43, so I'm right in the primetime age of the torch being passed from, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson to Michael Jordan when I'm a child. So, and Jordan basically changed not only basketball, but, the culture of sport. So I think that probably drew some into it, but there was something about the game. One of the things I always liked about basketball was it was something I could go out and practice by myself. I didn't need anybody else. All I needed was a ball and a hoop, and I could get better. But then you actually won by being a good teammate and by being someone that was of service to others. So I like that dynamic. Some of the other sports, baseball and football, depending on what position, are hard to practice by yourself. Like
Totally.
You need someone to throw you the ball at the very least, or someone to block. So there was something about basketball that I liked, that a certain amount of it was up to me to go out and make myself the best player I could be, and then use that within the confines of the team.
Yeah, I like that. So obviously you did very well at these schools, and now you're like, listen, I'm going to jump to corporate world and teach people how to be teams, teach people mindset of winning. What made you want to do that?
I was just ready for a change. After 20 years of serving youth and high school players and coaches, I was just ready to do something different. And
not only that, there isn't much money in that, is there?
No, there's not a lot of money into it. No,
even if you are at an elite private school that will step up and pay their coaches even more, it's still not a lot.
No, it's still not from a revenue driving standpoint.
So were you tired of being broke?
That was not the number one driver. I mean, I'm not going to say that money doesn't motivate me. It certainly does. And that factored into the equation, but it wasn't the number one reason that I made the change.
You just got tired of helping kids.
I was just ready to do something different. Part of it, I love the way you said that. It had to do with my own development. As I'm sure you can appreciate, if you spend all of your time around teenage boys, they're not doing much to teach me about the world and about perspective. And now that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm finding myself rubbing elbows with people like yourself and people in the business world, I'm learning just as much as I'm sharing.
Yeah.
So even when I go speak, I'm leaving with a whole bunch of knowledge bombs that I've learned from other people. And that's something that really excites me. So I'm finding that my own personal and professional development has been ramped up tenfold since I decided to make this switch. And
Interesting.
And I've also learned, a lot of these principles that I learned, I almost started taking them for granted. And I work with some elite level companies now, and I'm shocked at how much dysfunction they have, that they don't necessarily have clear roles on their team, and that their meetings are chaos. And that's a lot of stuff I just took for granted being around, coaches that really understood, how to create a winning type culture. So I'm thankful for an opportunity to be able to share these kind of nuggets with those groups.
Yeah, when you say clear roles in meetings, do you find that most companies are like that? Because I do. Like, I talk to a lot of people, and I always say clarity is gold in a world of chaos.
Yes, it is.
And meetings, which is funny that you say that, because I'm coming out with a product called killermeeting.com. If you go to killermeeting.com, you'll see it. It's not up yet, but it'll be up soon. And Killer Meeting is literally a system that if you put on a lot of meetings, this will have all kinds of meetings, quick, easy, good, killer meetings that will show you how to facilitate a quick, good, killer meeting. Because most meetings, I've noticed, usually do the opposite. And when you said they don't have clear roles, they have chaotic meetings, what did you mean?
That's exactly what I meant. I wish I could find a statistic on how much time is actually wasted in meetings.
I like statistics.
I know you do. And there's just too many meetings in general. I mean, some people hold meetings to plan the next meeting, and it's like there has to be something more efficient that we could be doing. And I pull a page out of my basketball playbook. A coach at the beginning of a game is only given a finite number of timeouts, and those timeouts are brief by design. They're either 30 or 90 seconds. So they don't have the luxury of calling a timeout whenever they want, or holding a meeting with the team whenever they feel like it. You only get a few of them, so you have to use them wisely. And you have to be brief by design, because that's how long the timeouts are. And you best share something with your team that's going to put them back out on the court, more apt to succeed. And I think businesses should follow a similar model. Like, hey, don't pretend we can have meetings whenever we want.
There you go.
There you go. There we go. I don't know how far we are in, but I was waiting for that. Thank you, sir.
There you go. Well, that's because I agree wholeheartedly. Too many companies are having too many meetings, first of all. Second of all, when you do have them, they're long and they're freaking pointless. And when you walk in, you have an agenda.
Yes.
But when you walk out, it usually is the opposite of what you were trying to accomplish. Hence, my new invention, Killer Meeting.
Exactly. No, I look forward to checking that out.
Well, I want people. Well, maybe you can help me create
Get it out there. Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, it's just a library of killer meetings.
Right.
To where the individual at company A doesn't have to be a meeting planning expert.
Right.
This will be a meeting in a box kind of thing.
Exactly.
Where I got some interesting and unique things about it, which will make it popular. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of meeting companies out there making a fortune just planning meetings.
Right.
But from a day-to-day, those are few and far between. You got to plan them.
Right.
How about just the daily meetings people are having?
Well, those are the ones that are the major time suck. I mean, imagine if I came into Lightspeed and said, you get 3 meetings this week or 3 meetings this month. That's all you get, Brad. So you better figure out how and when you want to use those. Oh, and by the way, when you have them, there's a 20-minute time limit on each. And not only is there a 20-minute time limit, there needs to be an invite list. And the only people that are in the meetings are those that need to be there. We don't need this big corral of people, and half the people are sitting in the meeting going, why am I here? Someone could give me a PDF with the bullet points from this meeting. This is a colossal waste of my time.
So why would people be in the meeting? What makes them necessary in a meeting? You could do that to anybody.
Well, it would just depend. I mean, it would imagine the agenda of the meeting. What's the purpose of this meeting, and who needs to have direct input? So if you and I were going to have a meeting about how to create killermeeting.com, then who else besides you and I would need to be a part of this meeting? Who else would be able to add input to this? And if we decide that it's just you and me, then it's just going to be you and me meeting. We don't need to have anybody else in the room. But so many groups would have 20 people in this room, even though you and I are the only ones that need to actually have any input. And that's wasting 18 other people's time.
So are meetings generally best utilized by input? Because sometimes I'll call meetings to tell people things. It's not input, it's output. And I want them all in one room so I can answer your questions and make sure that you guys understand what's cracking.
For sure.
Is that a good reason for a meeting?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, and this isn't about me coming from a place of judgment of what's good and what's bad. That's for you as the leader to decide.
Well, I'm telling you, I'll judge the world, and the world has mostly shitty meetings.
Yes. And too many of them.
And too many of them. And I've been in good ones where when you leave, it's like you're fired up. Whoever did it hit the mark, but usually those meetings that make you feel that way are like freaking structured. They're like somebody went through a lot of time to think through it.
Yes.
And like you don't have in a day-to-day world the time to think through a bunch of sales meetings. Then there's people having sales meetings just because there's a box to check. Did you have a sales meeting today?
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out, especially because it sounds like you're the expert, why do you have a meeting? What's a good reason to have a meeting? I have meetings like I want everyone to hear this directly so there's no, diluted bullshit. And then I'll go in there with thinking, we're going to be here 5 minutes. I'm going to go bing, bing, bing. And then we find ourselves belaboring certain issues, saying the same shit 3 different ways, which is now confusing people, intimidating people, threatening people, because now you get passionate. And you guys better understand this because if this gets fucked up, we got issues. And now you just basically shat on the people in the meeting.
Good use of the past tense.
And dude, at the end of the day, it's like, dude, you would have probably better off not having a meeting at all.
Right. Well, what you just said there, that was so insightful. You should never hold a meeting if there's not a distinct purpose for holding the meeting. If you can't, say at least in a clear sentence or a couple of bullet points, the reason that you're having the meeting and what is the outcome that you're looking for. What do I want these people to be able to do differently when they leave this meeting? If you can't answer that, then you probably shouldn't have the meeting in the first place. So there needs to be something that they completely understand. This is the reason. Here's why we're going to the meeting. This is what Brad wants us to do. Here's why I'm actually invited to the meeting, whether it's for me to hear something or for me to share something, but I know crystal clear why I'm there. And here's an agenda and I know if we have an agenda and Brad sticks to it, he's unconsciously telling me that he respects my time. Because if he doesn't, if you just bring people in and everybody's talking and it's a free-for-all, then no one's being respectful of anybody else's time.
Yeah.
So now I'm coming into the meeting. I know exactly what we're going to talk about. I know the reason we're having it, and I know what I'm going to need to be able to do differently when I leave this meeting. And sometimes that'll take 8 minutes. Sometimes it might take 90, but at least we know that every minute has been invested into something that's trying to get us where we're trying to go. And that's where I see a lot of folks, they're not doing that. And that's why I like this timeout comparison, and novice coaches will call timeout. Okay. So clearly our team's not playing well. I call timeout. I sit you down, Brad, and I get in your face and scream at you for 75 seconds about how poorly you're playing. And you know how poorly you're playing. I don't need to tell you that. And now the buzzer goes off and I send you back out on the court and I've done nothing to empower you so that you'll play better now. All I did was rehash the past. Mm-hmm. That's a colossal waste of a meeting, or in this case, a timeout. Yes. So instead, let's call it timeout. Let me be incredibly succinct and brief and tell you guys exactly what it is that I need you to do different. And then I want you leaving in the emotional state of how I want you to enter the next thing, which would be the game. So I don't want you going back into the game with less confidence, which is what you'll have if I just scream and yell at you when you come out. Yeah. So same thing. You've got to think, what's the emotional state I want my team to be in when they leave this meeting? And you make sure that you end on that high note. You end with a good close so that they leave going, all right, we're feeling good. Now, if the meeting is you need to reprimand some people, you don't like the way things are headed, that's okay too. It doesn't mean everything needs to be, puppy dogs and ice cream. It just means everything needs to be intentional. Nothing in a meeting. And of course, you're going to go off script every now and then, but you need to plan meetings because that's how you'll get the most out of them. And that's how you're being respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah, good point. Now, most people miss that. Why is that? They're not coaches?
One of the worst answers I think anyone can ever give to any question is, well, that's the way it's always been done. And I think that
I hear that a lot.
I hear that a lot as well. That's one of the reasons I enjoy going into the corporate world, even though I don't have a lick of corporate experience. I use that as to my advantage because I go into a company and say, I'm not going to tell you the way things have always been done. I'm going to come in with a fresh perspective and shake things up and do things differently.
Yeah.
But I think that people think, well, when I was the VP here, we always held meetings and this is what we did. We have the the Monday morning staff meeting. It's just the way we do things here. And no one's taken a second to step back and go, do we even need this Monday morning meeting? What's the point of it? Just because we've been doing it for 5 years doesn't mean it's of value. And I think that's why a lot of people do a lot of things in their lives. It's the way it's always been done, and they don't take time to question it.
So when a business brings you in, you're not going to be known as the meeting guy.
No,
that's just one of the things.
Yeah,
you're
this is just
about.
one little teeny thing but it often comes up when they want me to look at leadership and effectiveness and building a culture. If your meetings are draining the life out of your people, that's eroding your culture. You're ruining your culture by holding a meeting. And I know that everyone has good intentions. No one's intentionally holding a meeting to ruin their culture, but you're doing that by default.
Yep. I think I've done it around here a time or two.
Everybody
Maybe
has.
every time.
But now you'll rethink it.
Which is counterproductive.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you walk into a business, where do you start? Like, the reason I'm asking is because, I've got a lot of people with startups. I got a lot of people with businesses that are listening to this podcast. It's crazy, by the way, how many people listen to this podcast.
I know.
I'm like,
I'm one of them, baby.
Well, thank you. But I'm like, holy shit, man. I just got a couple of microphones. I chit chat with people. And now all of a sudden it's like getting crazy popular. And they keep saying it's because, you're just having a real conversation. It's almost like we're sitting in the living room with you guys listening, and, you keep shit real.
Yes.
Which I appreciate. And so thank the Bomb Squad. And if you're in it, that's awesome. Thank you.
I am in the Bomb Squad.
So the reason I ask is because there's a lot of people in the Bomb Squad that have businesses. So I want you to tell me, like, if they can't afford you, because you're working with some big companies. The big people pay you to come in, big money. And I'm sure you help, companies smaller too. But let's say some people are out there, they got a little company, but they can't afford Stein Jr. prices for now.
Yep.
Till they grow a little bit. Give them some free shit that you would do. Don't tell them what to do. Tell them what you would do if someone just paid you big money and walked into a organization. Do you have a checklist? Do you have where you start, where you go, and what you're trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do when you get paid big bucks? Let's say I said, okay, I'll pay whatever fee. Come on in here. First day, you're going to do something. You're going to walk through a process, I'm sure, and then we're going to get to a result. Talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, of course, the very first thing I'll do before I even set foot here is I'm going to be the best active listener I can be. And I'm going to ask you every question that I can think of that's going to help give me with clarity what the sticking points are. What's the issue here? Where is the thorn in your paw? And let's figure that out first, because I don't want any surprises. But I've got what I call a success flow. It goes identity, standards, accountability, culture, and results. And I'll unpack each of those. The very first thing that a company needs to know and have great clarity, and this is not just you at the top, this is all the way down to whoever would be the lowest on the proverbial totem pole. This could even be the building service staff. What is the identity of this business? Why are you in business? What is your purpose? Like, what do you believe? Why do you expect your team to make sacrifices? What problems do you solve? Who are you serving? And really have with great clarity, what is the identity of the existence of this business? And even that alone, you take a business with 100 people in it and you ask each of them to write down, what's the identity of this business? What exactly do we do? What problems do we solve? Why are we here? In a company of 100 people, you'd be shocked how many different answers you get. Now, if you're at the top, you're the founder, you're the CEO, you probably have tremendous clarity with the identity. But what about the other 99 people? Have you effectively communicated that to them? Do they know? And do they know how their role fits into that?
What do we do? What problems do we solve?
Who do we solve them for? Like, who is our target? What do we believe? What do we value? All of these pillars. And your identity is really a healthy combination of all of these things. There's not necessarily a set checklist of what to ask, but it's important for these people to know this is the identity of this business. And then once you've created an identity, now you need to create standards to uphold that identity. So this is what you believe. This is the problem you solve. This is who you solve it for. These are your values. Now we need to have some standards that everyone in this room needs to live up to in order to uphold that identity. The old school style of leadership was top down, which means you're at the top, you come up with a list of rules and you tell all of us to follow them. And if we don't, then we need to find somewhere else to work.
Word.
A better way to do that is to actually collectively create standards, something that people know that if we live up to these standards, we will live out this identity to the best of our ability. So perfect example might be, let's say we're sitting in here with 10 people that make up the Lightspeed team and say, do we all believe that being on time for company functions is important? And if everyone says yes, well, then that's going to be a standard that we're going to live by. Everybody here
What if
knows.
someone says no?
Then one, you want to be able to listen to them and get some clarity. Well, why do you think being on time is not important? And see what they have to say. Now, I use this example.
Well, because if the job gets done, who cares what time I walk in the door?
Fair enough. But if we're talking about actual company functions, if we're
I know, but this is what I'm hearing. So I'm trying to ask you, if I just paid you big money, I'd be asking you this. Because guess what? I don't understand the whole they get to decide bullshit.
Okay.
If I...
Oh, you're talking about when you, the consensus of the group?
Yeah, if I invest all this time and money building a company, you come to work here. I don't necessarily need to ask you if you think it's okay that we're here on time. I think I should be, or the leader should be, the person that gets to decide, hey, we are going to be on time. Now, you just said, well, you ask them, is this something? Okay, then it's going to be something. Well, what if they say no? Because if they're going to say no, why ask them at all? Because I don't give a fuck. Right. Hey, you're going to be on time. Why? Because I said so. That's why. But in reality, I'm not against giving some, open voting, process. I'm just wondering why. What's the benefit? Because then they're just going to, dude, if I say, hey, are we going to give pay raises every day or every month? Of course they're going to say every day. They're self-serving.
Right.
I'm going to do shit. I'm self-serving. People are self-serving.
Yes.
How do you get them to tell you real feedback, and when do you not care? Because showing up on time, in my mind, as an employee, if the job gets done, who gives a fuck? You don't pay me hourly. Who cares if I'm here 1 hour or 40 hours? If I walk in at 8:15 and do a better job than the person that's showing up at 8, what's more important? Well, clearly in that case, 8:15. But some point in time, you have to have order. You have to have expectation. I want you here at 8 o'clock because that's what I expect you to be here. So now I can start planning my day, and I know you'll be here at 8. You will be here at 8. Not, would you like to be?
Right.
What do y'all think? Should we make that a standard?
I love it. And I think I did a poor job communicating because I made it sound too soft and too touchy-feely. It's a couple of things.
You make it sound like we all want to play hacky sack and discuss the future.
Yes. No, and it's not quite that. People will always give you more buy-in and more believe in and more commitment if they feel that they have a say in what's going on. So part of it is simply asking them. And
make them feel that way.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't mean that you absolutely have to do what it is that they're saying. It's more that you care enough about them to ask their opinion. You as the leader ultimately are going to be the one that decides which standards stick. This is not a full democracy, and that's where I did a bad job communicating that.
But I'm guilty. See, I'm guilty. That's why I'm asking it, because I'll walk into a meeting and I want to try to act like that.
Right.
But in reality, I don't. I'll walk in and I'll say, hey, folks, we're going to be here at 8 o'clock. And then I've tried the whole, what do y'all think? Is that fair? And then someone would say something that makes sense and you can't argue with it. What does it matter?
No, that's a good point.
And then I don't know how to argue with it. So then I just become a dick. It doesn't fucking matter. You'll be here at 8. And then again, that's why those meetings, like I always say, backfire for companies.
They can, yes.
Because I went in there just to fire them all up and they all left thinking, oh, he's a dick. I tried to get their input. What do y'all think? Is that fair? And then someone made a good reason why it technically doesn't make any sense at all. And then instead of somebody having the ability to change, most people will just turn into a dick.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't care what you think. You're going to be here at 8 o'clock. When in reality, the true finesse is when you get that information and then you get them to want to believe that being on time is important.
Yes.
That's finesse.
Yes.
You got to be like a skilled leader. That takes practice, just like basketball.
Without question. But I know that we're probably stuck too much on the one about time. I'm with you 100% that as long as the job gets done and it gets done to an elite level, when you do it is probably irrelevant. But I also think that being on time for certain things is a respect of time. So if you were going to have a super big time guest in, you've got your buddy Grant Cardone coming in to sit in this seat right here, and your film guy decides to show up 30 minutes late, that's not going to fly. So him just coming in whenever he wants is probably not going to work. So when you have a scheduled engagement, Grant's coming in here, you're going to interview him. This guy better be here on time or it's disrespecting your time and it's disrespecting Grant's time. But more...
Well, to me, to be on time, you're early.
For sure. Absolutely.
Preparation is key.
Love it. But from a macro level, it's important that you have to realize that you're always going to view the company through your lens, which may be the founder or the CEO, where other people in different departments and at different levels are going to have different vantage points. And by merely asking them their opinion on certain things, lots of times you'll get some tremendously valuable information that might change your perspective or how you view it. So this is not a everybody raise their hand if they want to be on time democracy. This is, let me hear some thoughts from some places that I don't get to see as often, and let me see if what they have to offer is valuable. But ultimately, you're the one that will decide the standards. But I'm telling you that just the mere fact of asking someone, unconsciously they leave going, wow, Brad values what I think. He just asked me about some of these standards and I shared with him. Regardless of whether you change any of your positioning or not, I feel like you truly care about me as a person simply by the fact that you asked.
Yeah.
And that is a glue that will, instead of eroding a culture like a lot of these meetings do, this will actually help bind your culture.
Yeah.
So now you have these standards, and then the standards, once they're set and effectively communicated, that's when we move to accountability. And the key for an organization to be successful is not just having vertical accountability, it's having horizontal accountability, which means everybody holds everyone accountable, which means...
Well, that's like a dream scenario.
And absolutely. But that's what we're aiming for, right?
Can you help companies achieve that?
Without question. And it starts by, first of all,
clarity.
Laying clarity, absolutely. And laying a foundation of trust. And getting people to understand accountability is not something you do to them. It's something you do for them. See, many people think that if you're holding me accountable, and we see this whether it's father to son or it's CEO to employee, that if you're holding me accountable, like, why is Brad always busting my chops? Why is he always getting on me? Because he cares. When you hold someone accountable, you show them that you care about them and you care about the organization. So what I would like to see, and we'll keep going back to time, even though it might not be the best example, if we have 10 people from Lightspeed in here that were all supposed to be at this meeting, and we know that one of our standards is we will be early, because if we're not early, we're late, and someone comes in 5 minutes late, every single person in this room needs to hold that person accountable to the fact that they just violated one of the standards. Because if we allow them to violate any standard, no matter how small it may seem, then we're going to start to erode our identity. So we're working back down the chain now, and that's where things get busted. But you can hold someone accountable through love. You can be demanding without being demeaning. Like, just because you come in late doesn't mean I'm going to MF you up and down. It just means that you came in late. We all agreed that we'd be on time. That's not cool. You showing up late is taking lunch off of my plate, and I'm not going to let you do that because I care about the team and I care about you. And when you can create collective accountability where everybody's willing to do that with each other, you've got something incredibly special.
I wish. Like, how do you get that achieved?
Well, one, it's making sure that everybody knows that their voice is being heard. And this one is also incredibly challenging, and I'd love your perspective on it. It takes humility and vulnerability from the leader at the top, because you aren't above the standards either, which means if you, Brad Lee, show up 5 minutes late, your team needs to be able to have the courage to hold you accountable. And if you've created a safe and fertile environment, a safe culture, then they'll be willing to do that. I'm going to be willing to say, Brad, dude, you were 5 minutes late, man. Come on, that's not cool. And I'm not worried that you're going to fire me over it. I know that you want me to hold you accountable because that's the culture you've created. And that
would
can be
nice.
Tough.
Well, yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
only that, finding people to care. Like you know, in a company where people actually care would be beautiful. Like, I think Lightspeed to a point is like a unique company. And then in some cases, we're just like the rest of them. But in most cases, fortunately, we step it up. We do care. We do try, and try to mitigate as much, tomfoolery as possible. But I've seen it to where, like, certain employees won't tell on other certain employees because their friendship and their camaraderie is more important than the mission, the company, the vision, the rules, and the accountability. To where it's like, I find something out and I go, hey, why wouldn't you say something? Oh, dude, I don't want to be labeled the narc.
Right.
So their own relationships usually are more important than some of these things. How do you fix that?
Well, again, and that sometimes it can be hard to undo. A lot of this is how you would especially start with new hires and making sure that they understand. That would be an example of confrontation.
Yeah, but euphoria is when all your employees equally care like they own a piece of the company. Because a lot of times
Yes.
you get bigger and they don't give a rat's dick. I'm not going to tell on Joey that's 10 minutes back from lunch late. Then I'm the dick. So, and not only that, we hang out after work and he won't give me a dime bag, when we're playing Call of Duty or whatever. So in a lot of companies, most companies, the employees are just there for a paycheck.
Yes.
There is no strong culture. By the way, every company has a culture.
Yes.
Good or bad is the crazy.
Exactly.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, how do you get people to buy into your shit so deeply that someone really is self-policing? And like, when you show up late, I really do give a shit. And I give a shit so much, I don't care if we're not friends anymore. Like, that to me is like some euphoric, ideological outcome that I've never seen in any business.
And that would be absolutely ideal and perfect. And we realize that no business is going to be able to do that 100% of the time with 100% of the people. But we're still trying to mitigate that gap as much as possible. So it happens less often and with less people. You brought up a couple really great points. One, it's important people know there's a difference between liking and caring. You and I don't have to like each other personally, but we do have to care about each other and we have to care about this business. Caring is an act of will. Caring is a choice. If you and I decide that we don't want to go grab beers after work, that's okay. That can't get in the way of us being able to do our jobs and fulfill our role to the best of our ability. So one, we need to make sure that people know that if you and I are boys and you come in late, me not holding you accountable means that I don't care about this business, that I don't care about the company or the identity or everybody else on our team because I'm willing to let a standard slide based on my own personal relationship. And we need to encourage folks not to take that route. That, hey, first of all,
how though?
if you and I are boys, and I understand the concept of kind of narking and ratting somebody out, but if you and I are boys, you're putting me in an awkward position by showing up late.
But why? What do you give a shit? I'm 10 minutes late. Doesn't affect your job at all.
Well, that's where it comes to the next point that you made. In order for this to really reach true euphoric levels, you need to tie everyone in the organization to that identity so that they actually feel a little bit of pain when that's happening. So let's say you have a certain revenue goal, and if you reach this revenue goal, everyone gets a certain bonus. Well, if you can prove to me that my buddy showing up 10 minutes late is going to take a few steps in the wrong direction to us reaching the revenue goal, then ultimately he is taking lunch off of my plate. Him coming in 10 minutes late and not making the 2 sales calls he was supposed to make is actually going to limit the ability for us to reach the goals and for me to get my bonus. So there actually is a problem there. And I know that example may be a tad over dramatic, but the key is tying everybody to that identity. And in order for folks to truly care, they have to believe that their role matters, regardless of what their role is. And if you've got the right people on the bus, you need to make sure you put them in the right seat by making sure that their role is not only what they like to do, but it's also what they're really good at. If most of the people here at Lightspeed are doing things that they're naturally good at and they enjoy doing, they're going to give you a much better effort. It's when you have people doing things that they're not very good at or don't like doing, that's when we have some of this problem. So part of the reason your boy shows up 10 minutes late anyway is because he probably doesn't feel a real strong connection to the identity and he doesn't really feel great about his role. That's why he doesn't care if he's 10 minutes late. You care because this is your baby, which is why you're early everywhere you go, which is why you have high enthusiasm everywhere you go, which is why you're all in with everything you do because this thing is your baby. Your goal as the leader is to try to get as many people on the team to feel as close to that as possible.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about clarity because as you're talking, I'm thinking. I'll do that a lot.
It's a good practice to get into, brother.
So sports and team is the equivalent of business and employees.
Yes, absolutely.
So your business is the sport, your employees is the team. Basketball in your context was your sport, your team were the kids.
Yes.
Now,
and you're the coach in
right.
this analogy.
Well, maybe, but let me walk you down this.
Oh, please.
Or as people say, unpack it. Now, I'm looking at the differences. The difference is because ideally they work, but not actually in some cases. And our job as an entrepreneur is to make it work because ideally you want like a team. Now, in basketball, everyone wants to win. In business, That's not necessarily true. So so I'm going through my mind. So one, I want to try and figure out how to get everybody to want to win, right? Because if everybody doesn't want to win, you got a problem right there. You aren't going to win shit on a basketball team if half the team doesn't want to win.
Can I challenge that just for a little bit?
Sure.
I don't think anyone say that they wouldn't want to win, but we know how selfish we are as human beings. If you take the average high school player and say, would you rather score 30 points and lose, or would you rather score 2 points and win? If you put them on a lie detector test, most kids would rather score 30 and lose because it's all about them. So you need to find the special players that are willing to say, I'm okay if I only score 2 because winning is what's most important. And you can look at any professional sports team. Look at the ones that have been the most successful historically. They've created a culture and they found coaches that bring in players that are those unique players. They're the ones that would actually rather win than be the superstar themselves.
You say they found them. I'm trying to figure out how to create them.
Create, yes. And part of it is it'll be the culture you create, which one of the first things I learned as a coach, there's only 2 things you can do as a coach or a leader. You accept it or you correct it. That's it. Accept it or correct it.
And either one of them's
well, you win either way. So if you find out that I'm letting my boy come in 30 minutes late to lunch,
accept or correct, folks.
Accept or correct.
That was a paused bomb.
I love it. Better late than never. So that's it. So either if you find out that I've been quietly letting my boy come in from lunch 10 minutes late, you have a choice. You either accept that that's just going to be the way it's going to be, or you're going to find a way to correct that. And those are the only choices we have.
Yeah, but that's the hard part.
Oh, it absolutely is.
That's why people need to hire guys like you to come in and work with them.
And business is hard.
Sure.
I mean, if this was easy, everybody else would have their own thing and they'd be crushing it the way you are, but they don't.
But basketball and team, business and employees, to me, that's the equivalent. So, So if I want, and again, it's easier with sports. Like, dude, to coach a soccer team to a championship is easier than to build a $100 million company. I think. Why? Well, because everybody's voluntarily there wanting to play soccer. You know what I'm saying? They want to win in general. You know, sure, there's little assholes that want to be the star and they'd take a loss as long as they look like the star. But in general, they're all there because they want to be. They're all having fun. You know, they're a team and everyone knows their role and everybody wants to win.
Yeah.
In general. Every team I've been on, I want to win.
Yep.
So everybody wants to win. So step one, and I am saying it so you'll discuss it.
Yes,
Step
please.
one, I feel like if I'm trying to make those real, then my employees need to be a team that want to win. So I need to make everybody want to win. Number 2.
But you're saying you don't think that happens as often in business. So
no,
you're saying that
because people don't give a shit. It's not my company. I don't give a fuck. All I want is my fucking $12 an hour. Like, who gives a shit? Billy's late. Well, I ain't narking on Billy. Dude, he's not going to fucking be cool with me after work. Matter of fact, a couple people might just alienate me and not let me sit with them at lunch. Like, it's the same stupid shit. But
so we need to get rid of Billy.
Right. But my point is my job, if I want to equate these two, my job, step 1, make everybody want to win. Figure out a way to get everybody to want to win. Now, if someone doesn't want to win and you can clearly identify them, elimination.
Absolutely.
So make everyone want to win. That's step 1 in my mind as you were talking.
And do you have some ideas on how to do that?
No, but that's what I'm going to be asking you.
Yes, please. Got it.
Then there's step 2.
Yep.
Okay. If these sports team, business employees, if we're equating those, everybody wants to win on a team. Number 2, if this is the case, everybody needs to know their exact role and definition.
Love it.
And expectation. Because if you want me to play first base, but you put me in center field, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know what it is you're expecting me to do. I get the general idea, but, you know, there's no clarity.
Exactly.
So I need to provide clarity for each and every role.
Yes.
Or roles.
Yes.
Because, again, in my house, shit, dude, you might be your role is to answer the door. And then when there's no one at the door, your fucking role is also to do the dishes until someone's at the door. Then your role is to go over there and open the door. Then your role is to go back and finish the fucking dishes.
Know your role, baby.
Right. So you see my point? Like, there's not always just, this is my role. Look, you might have many roles.
Yes.
But
especially in smaller startups, people are wearing lots of hats.
Especially the owner, the entrepreneur. So the whole thing is you have to define the role, even if you have 7. I need to know what my roles are.
Yes.
Right? So that'd be number 2. And then the third observation was that those teams, when you play the next school, there's a clear opponent.
Yeah. Sometimes
in business, you don't know as an employee, as a team member, who the fuck's the bad guy? Who are we beating here? You know what I mean? What? There's no competition. There's no clear, I want to beat that person. So we need to identify. So you identify roles, right? And then number 3, I think, if I'm equating the two, I need to identify our enemy, our competitor, our opponent. I need to identify our opponent. Now, if I could do that to my employees, that would create a team, because the team now knows everybody wants to win. Everybody knows their position. And everybody knows the enemy, the opponent, the goal, the objective. How do I do those 3 things?
Love it. And first of all, I love the fact that
you owe me money. I just made you billions, because you're going to freaking go into a company. Once we talk about this, the Bomb Squad's listening. If you execute what he's about to tell you, your company is going to improve for free because you listen to this podcast. Because I'm telling you right now, the whole goal it sounds easy. You know, I coached a team from 0 to freaking kick-ass champions. Well, if you did, everybody wanted to win. You knew everybody's position, and they knew who their freaking opponent was. So if you want to make your team similar to a sports team, then I would think you have to do similar things. So I have to freaking get everybody to want to win, which is hard.
Very hard.
And then there's number 2, because they don't own the company.
Correct.
I don't get fuck all from this. Like, fuck you. Give me my $12 and shut the fuck up. I don't care. And there's a lot of that in the world.
There is.
So how do we identify it and eliminate it? Because a lot of people hide. A lot of people are good at, acting like they're all your buddy and they give a shit, and they don't give a rat's dick. And then there's some other people that they give a rat's dick, but they're just dumber than a box of rocks. They'll fuck your business up with good intention. And you don't want them either. I don't anyway.
No.
And then so you got to make them all want to win. You got to clearly identify the roles, and then you have to clearly identify the opponent, when in some cases, I'm a landscaper. Who's my opponent?
The grass. No, I'm just kidding.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like in business, to equate, it's kind of, you need a professional to teach you. So how would you handle those 3 things for a company?
Love it. First of all, let's clear one thing up, that a lot of people think that basic and easy are synonyms, and they're not. Just because something is basic doesn't mean that it's easy. What you just, and this is a huge,
and vice versa.
Of course, but this is a compliment. Those 3 pillars that you just gave us are pure gold. They're knowledge bomb worthy, and they're incredibly basic. Like, I follow along with what you just said with perfect clarity. None of those things are easy, and you're living proof that they're not easy. If they were easy, you'd already be doing them.
Sure.
So would every other business. So we all have to have the humility to realize that if we need to get back to mastering the basics and the fundamentals, but doing so is not going to be easy. But people skip them because they think it's beneath them. That we don't need to worry about the basics. I know for a fact that the best basketball players in the world still do the most basic footwork and offensive moves for 10 to 15 minutes of every workout in every practice.
That's right.
Yes, because they never get away from the fundamentals. Another thing to think about, you've mentioned that there are a lot of people out there that say, just give me my $12. I'm just in it for the paycheck. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah, but if they said that, it's easy to find them.
Yes.
I'm talking about the people, they don't say that.
But their actions are telling you.
Well,
their behavior to some degree is showing it.
Well, again, technically.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. Because
no.
My leadership, I confused a while back with cheerleadership. And cheerleader is not a leader.
No.
It's a cheerleader, not a leader.
No.
To me, a leader, sometimes you have to be good at identifying what's not being said and done.
Absolutely.
Because in some cases, someone's trying to help out, you fire them because they fucking dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And the company, other people, they know that the person volunteered and just got fired for fucking something up.
Yeah.
When the message that gets sent is, you'll get fired if you volunteer.
Yes.
So now everybody's like, dude, I ain't volunteering.
Yeah.
And then they get fired because why don't you give enough shits to volunteer? Well, so there's all these confusing messages unless somebody's clear.
And that takes the finesse that you mentioned earlier. I mean, we all know that which gets praised gets repeated. Well, it's the same thing in the other direction. If you're going to terminate somebody for not doing what they're supposed to do, then we're going to have an issue. One thing, what I'd ask you Do you believe there are enough good people out there that are not dumber than a bag of rocks and that do care enough about something other than the $12 paycheck? Are there enough of those people out there?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
they're all over. And
yes.
And in fact, most companies that are frustrated and think they have dumb people and think they have people that don't care have the same people that are going to give a fuck somewhere else.
Yes.
And they're the same people that are going to excel somewhere else. And that's why it's your fault, because those people that you say are dumb and that you blow out and that aren't capable, they're just not capable for you. It's just like a fucking, when people say she's a slut. You know the difference between a slut and a bitch?
I don't.
A slut will fuck anyone, and a bitch will fuck anyone but you. That's the difference.
Can you do a dropping bomb on that one? That was pretty legit.
No, but that's the difference. It's like people don't understand. Like your employees that suck and you let them go, they're going to excel somewhere else. They're going to find the right seat eventually. But they sucked for you. Well, why did they suck for you? Because you couldn't lead properly. You couldn't identify what seat they belonged in. You couldn't nurture their talents and identify their talents and bring them to a level of success. Therefore, you should fire them. And here's the weak part I get. Then I say, oh, well, they've got kids at home, and oh, well, they've got this. And rather than, care more, you act like you care that they have kids, so you keep them. Dude, you should care more that they have kids and blow them out. Why?
Yes.
Because you're the fucking loser that can't figure out how to lead them properly. So you should just let them go get led or fined or even float into a better position.
For sure.
But that's where I get weak, dude. I don't like terminating people because I put myself in people's shoes. Right. I do it with a customer. That's why we got the baddest training system on earth.
Yes.
If I have to use a training system, I want to use Lightspeed.
Right.
And the reason for that is because I put myself in a user's position.
Yes.
I put myself in an employee position. I put myself in other people's positions. And I think it's a unique advantage.
It is. And you actually, I think on some level, just answered number one for us, because it was what I was going to bring up, which is you have very high empathy. I mean, I can tell just in knowing you for a short time, you have a very high emotional IQ. So you need to ask yourself, if I was this employee making $12 an hour, why would I care? If I'm not Bradley, the owner, if this is not my baby, I'm the employee that makes $12 an hour, why would I care about this? What would make me care about the identity? Why would I care about making Brad another million? Why does this matter to me?
If I wasn't a dick?
You need to ask that.
I already am in my mind. And I'm starting to ask some qualifying questions like, you mean if I'm not a dick? Because if I'm a dick, I don't give a fuck. I want my check, son. Where's my money?
Right.
But I don't give a shit. Now, if I wasn't a dick.
But that's you admitting that you have a dick on your team, which comes back to you. That's either accepting or.
Because you're posing hypothetical. And in hypothetical, I also run through all the possibilities. So
Okay.
there could be a possibility I was a dick, and my answer would be different.
Yes.
Now, if I was just a regular good person, what would make me care? You. Like if I liked you.
Okay.
I don't want to let you down. I admire
That's a big
you.
one.
So therefore, I respect and admire you, and I don't want you to be let down. Therefore, I would care to do a better job, even though I'm only getting $12 an hour. I admire and respect you as the leader, and I want to make you look good and feel good and think I'm cool.
Well, okay.
That's one reason.
Let's use a hypothetical. Let's say that I work for you and I make $12 an hour. Now, on one hand, I might be completely apathetic. I just want to go home and rip bong hits and play video games. This is only for $12. I don't care. I'm apathetic. Well, if that's the case, the moment you feel that way, you need to remove me from the team because there's no room for apathy in a Bradley organization. However, if I do care, here's some things I might care about. Brad is a really smart guy who can teach me skills that I can either use here or use for whatever it is that I'm trying to chase.
In the future.
Yes, in the future, exactly. So you pouring into me and giving me new skills is of value. You're an incredibly connected guy and you know people. So
true.
If you and I have a conversation and you say, Alan, what is it that you want to get out of this job other than $12 an hour? What are your aspirations? Where are you trying to go? Because I can help you get there. If you're on my team and you're committed and you buy in and play your role, even at $12 an hour, I promise you it will be the best investment you've ever made because I'm going to open doors for you and teach you skills that will allow you to fulfill your own dreams.
Good one.
You think if I heard that from Brad Lee, I wouldn't be all in at $12 an hour, I'd be 100% in.
That'd be nice.
I might even say, Brad, keep your $12 because what you're giving me is 1,000 times more valuable than money. I'm all in.
Which would be true.
But of course it is. But it takes, and I know this is difficult at scale because if you have 500 people working for you, I know you can't have this conversation with 500 different people.
Yeah, but you pass that down to your leaders.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
That conversation needs to be had. Is literally you say, or one of your other leaders says, Alan, what's going to make you care about how well we do? What is it that you want to get out of this? We're all inherently selfish. You know, in the morning, you don't have to, when I wake up in the morning, you don't have to remind me to look out for myself.
Yeah.
Like I know that. We're all wired to do that.
Self-preservation instincts.
Yes. And since we know that, well, we can't change the waves, but we can learn how to surf, which means if you already know that I'm an inherently selfish creature, then start asking me what it is that I want. What am I trying to get out of this? And once you've done that and I've told you, now you can put me in a position on the team that I'm going to be getting what I want at the same time I'm helping you get what you want. And the moment you think that I'm apathetic and I don't care and I just want the $12, then you either accept it or you correct it. And correcting it would mean this person, we just can't have apathy on our team.
That was a good one there.
Cool. But you led me down that because you're already doing that because you have high empathy.
I'm thought-provoking.
You're very thought-provoking.
How about clear roles? Sometimes as a business entrepreneur and owner, we believe we have clear roles when in reality there's confusion amongst the ranks. Now,
Yes.
why is that?
It's like that old game telephone. If we had 10 people in this room right now and you whispered something in my ear and I whispered it to the next person, by the time it got back to you, it would not be the original statement. If right now you write down what everybody's role is in your organization, then you go to them and ask them to write down what their role is, I guarantee you there's going to be some gaps and there's going to be some differences, which just gives us the humility to realize we haven't said it as clearly as possible.
Yeah, but here's what I would recommend. Tell me where I'm wrong or if I'm right.
Okay.
I don't try to figure out what a person's role is. I try to figure out what the role is. And then I try
put
to
the right person.
Yeah. Because
It's 100% right.
Because too many people are trying to figure out what this person's role should be. Listen, if you had nobody at your company and you were going to start over, open it up all over again, knowing what you know now, what roles would be necessary? Like,
Yes.
shit, I need someone to freaking fix these damn lawnmowers because they break down a lot, which I didn't know, but now I do. So guess what? I need a repairman.
Yes.
So there's a role. Now I need... I also need someone to answer the damn phone because, man,
Yes.
I am swamped answering the phone. So now I need a role for that. Now, you might end up creating a role that answers phones and fixes the machine.
For sure.
Now that might be a role, but you don't identify, well, shit, if they're constantly answering the phone, how are they ever going to fix a machine? Now I'm going to have bad customer service because everyone's going to wonder where the fuck their machine is. Well, the dude's answering the phone because we're so busy and we won't have any time to fix any machines until everyone thinks we're stupid and quits calling.
Yep.
And then they can actually fix machines because now they're not answering the phone. But then after all the machines are fixed, the phone's not ringing. And I just
Right.
went out of business. When in reality, you should have had two distinct roles, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you figure out your roles?
Well, I love that you started with the outcome first. We have 10 broken lawnmowers. These need to be fixed. Let me look at my team. Who on this team is the best person to fix the lawnmowers and who actually enjoys fixing lawnmowers? First of all, if they're the same person, it's over. You've already answered it. This is the person that will be fixing our lawnmowers. They're good at it and they enjoy doing it.
Now, what happens if there's no lawnmowers to fix or there's very few because it's a startup?
Then that's
what should they do while there's no lawnmowers to fix?
Then that's not a role that needs to be. That's not a role we need to fill. There's
Well, what
no
do you
need
mean?
in filling a role.
I'm paying them a salary. If they're just sitting there waiting for a lawnmower to fix, I'm wasting my money, and they won't work on frickin' on you know what I'm talking.
If you
on call because now they need a full-time job. So you hire a lawnmower repairman, and that bitch needs to get paid whether you got lawnmowers to repair or not. So
But I would
always
say-
say, what happens when there's no lawnmowers to repair? What should they do then? I call that a secondary post come out.
Yes. Oh, and that's what you're saying. So you're saying initially we needed lawnmowers to be fixed.
No, you're
now
in the
we
lawnmower
don't.
business. You
Yes.
know you're going to need them, but you don't need a bunch of them because you're just getting started. So now
Right.
I have a repairman, but not a lot of lawnmowers to get repaired yet because I don't have a salesman. So I hire a salesman, but until it ramps up, My mechanic's just waiting. What
Right.
should I have him do while he's waiting? I call that a secondary post. Do you recommend those or one clear role?
No, I think there's nothing wrong with the secondary post. My question would have been, why did you hire a lawnmower repairman before you needed any lawnmowers repaired? That was an error in judgment on your end because you're paying somebody money to fill a role that's not even there yet.
Yeah, because if I wait, then people are now
Okay.
you come in to freaking get your lawnmower repaired. Now I'm out with an ad looking for a repairman. And now there's delay and my first customer's
That's
pissed.
fair. So then I would say, okay, we've got Brad Jr. over here is an expert lawnmower repairman, but we don't need him to do that at present. What other needs do we have that he's capable of filling to a high level? And that will be his secondary post. That will be his, not only does he answer the door, but he also cleans the dishes. But you said it perfectly first. First, we have to establish a need. What is the role that needs to be filled? And then we either need to look on our team to who fills that to the best of their ability, or who do we go out and recruit to fill that? But there's no need in bringing someone on just bringing sand to the beach. Like if there's not a role that needs to be filled, then we don't need this person.
Yeah, or a role that requires a full-time person.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And that clarity, there's kind of 3 steps to the clarity. First of all, everyone on the team needs to know their role. They have to know what it is. Next, you need them to embrace their role. They have to understand that,
Do you ever want them to butter their role?
only when they go out to dinner, when we have a staff dinner, they can butter that thing all they want.
I'm just checking.
We need them to embrace it. We need everyone on the team to go, man, my role is important to this organization because if I stop fixing lawnmowers, this whole thing falls apart. So I want to embrace the fact that Brad trusts me to fix lawnmowers. I am important. Regardless of the $12 an hour, I am important and I am needed by this team. That sense of worth and value will get people to buy in.
Goes a long way.
And then you need them to star in their role. This is often the hardest part because getting someone to star in a role that most people would consider a lesser role, hey, if your only role is to answer the door and the doorbell only rings every now and then, that's not one of the biggest roles on the team. However, we need you to be the best door answerer in the world when it does ring. You have to star in your role. And we do that by rewarding great behavior. When I answer to the door like I'm an elite world-class professional door answerer, you're going to praise me up and down. You're going to tell me what a great job that I did in that one instance, because then it will be repeated.
So you want to recognize your role.
Always recognize the role. And one thing to think, I know you said you don't follow basketball, but let me paint a picture for you. In the NBA, there's probably 12 players that can do a little bit of everything. Your LeBron James, your Kevin Durant. I mean, those guys are freaks. They can do it all. Outside of the top 12 players, every single player in the NBA is a role player. They have one specific skill set that they do at an elite level and sometimes a secondary skill set, but that's what they do. I could list you 10 guys right now that are elite sharpshooters. They get paid millions of dollars to catch and shoot. That's their only job, catch and shoot. I could give you another list of guys, their entire job is to rebound and block shots. They don't care if their coach doesn't care if they score a point the entire game. You give me 12 rebounds a game, we'll give you $15-20 million a year. They have a very specific role.
Well,
and those guys have to fulfill that role to the best of their ability in order for the team to come together and be successful.
Well, here, let me blow your mind.
Please.
What do you think, let's say, KD gets paid for?
To win basketball games?
No.
No? Okay.
Some people say play basketball.
Put butts in the seats?
That's right.
Okay.
KD's a salesman.
Yeah, I like
it
that.
always boils back down to sales.
Yes.
Like all these top athletes are not necessarily paid because they're really good athletes. They're paid because they sell tickets.
They're entertainers.
Which makes them salespeople.
Yeah.
Sales is something that you need to master in
Absolutely.
any company, even more importantly than a lot of this culture shit. I know companies that are killing it and their culture's poison and everyone quits and there's high turnover, but they're killing it because they're freaking selling the shit out of things. But
Yep.
imagine if you're a company out there and you get both right.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. You're playing a dangerous game. You're playing the comparison game. You're saying they're killing it because you're comparing them to somebody else, but they're not killing it to the degree that they could be killing it.
That's right.
So
Thank you.
they're actually sandbagging.
That's right.
And that's where you could say, are you successful because of your culture or in spite of your culture?
In spite.
And if the answer is in spite, then we've got a problem.
That's right.
So
and
yes,
that's why people come in here like, this place is great, dude. You've done so well. And I say, actually, no. And they're like, quit playing humble. I'm like, dude, I'm not humble. I should be $1 billion company right now. I've fucked up my own shit. by not knowing this stuff. And I'm changing it when I learn, especially when the experts like you come through. I take notes and then I'm like, that makes sense. And I start implementing. So it's getting better. But I can tell you, if I could go back 20 years and redo this, it'd take me 3 years to get where I am today.
Yes.
In 20. It'd take me 3.
But that's a great thing. That means you're continually learning and growing. And I hope that 20 years from now, you say the same thing.
No, in 3 years from now, I'm going to be $1 billion company. 3 to 5 max. If I'm not done in 5, I haven't listened to a damn thing I've been preaching. And that's the thing about me. I like to keep it real.
I know, the real Bradley.
Now, real quick, because we're hour 3 into this. And
Are we really? Wow, it flew by.
Oh, sure. It flies by when you're talking to the old B-meister.
Yeah.
I do it quick, but I want to know, how do you identify your clear opponent when it could be, ethereal? It could be like, there's no real, it's not, my competitor. It's not, that. Like, sometimes you're doing a job and you don't feel an opponent or a competitor or any kind of clear opposition. How do you invent one or identify one? Like, let's say I'm a radio station.
But part of it's what you just said. What? I think it's you're comparing with yourself. Your opponent is yourself. So right now, you said we're a $100 million company.
That's what I was driving towards.
Which to the average person, a $100 million company is phenomenal. You're doing great. But a $100 million company, when you're capable of being a $1 billion company, is not that good.
No.
So it's your opponent is
yourself. And I didn't say we're 100 million, because we're not 100
No,
million.
I'm just talking fictitiously.
Okay.
That's what happens when we play the comparison game.
Yeah.
So when you say, my buddy's got a company and they're killing it, although their culture's bad, he's killing it compared to some other small buildings next to his. He's not killing it compared to what he could be doing if he was getting all of this stuff right.
There he's blowing it. That's why I always say, I was saying this is, don't be fooled by success. They're like, what does that mean? That's exactly what it means.
That's exactly what it is.
Just because you're kicking ass doesn't mean you're kicking ass.
Right.
You could be killing
kicking
it.
more.
Well, you could be killing it and losing. You know what I'm saying? It's perspective. If I could be making 30 billion and I'm making what I'm making, everyone would say, dude, he's fucking eating shit.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing millions of dollars. Yeah, but dude, like, he's losing it. If you knew I could be $1 billion company. But if you didn't even think I'd make $40 million, you'd be going, oh, he's killing it. No, don't be fooled by success, folks. Just because you're kicking ass in your company doesn't mean you're actually kicking ass.
Right.
Assess your company, assess your team, assess yourself. And if you can, go out and freaking hire an expert like Alan Stein Jr. And by the way, if you guys want to follow him on Instagram, it's Alan Stein Jr. on Instagram. Your website is what? AlanSteinJr.com. AlanSteinJr.com. Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure. But I want to address what you just said, the clear opponent. See, I think it's a mistake trying to look for motivation by trying to find someone else to compete with you.
No, you're right.
Yeah, you don't need to be able to do that. You need to focus on yourself. Now, clearly, in a game like basketball, you've got to learn the other team's personnel and you want to learn their sets. But the best teams I've ever been around, they spend way more time focused on what they do and what they control than anybody else. And it's an old quote,
right.
Winners... There you go. You might want to do it again because I like this one. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. So I don't need to look around the room for, am I competing against Brad? No, I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And if I do that, it will be good enough to beat everybody else that's around me.
Yeah. Well, again, here you go. Because when I wrote those down, I'm thinking through it. But when I read clear opponent, my whole thing is don't compare yourself to other people.
Exactly.
Compare yourself to yourself. So if you guys were out there listening going, who is our opponent? You are your opponent. Outdo yesterday. Every day you should be outdoing yesterday. That's your opponent. Your opponent is you. Your opponent is your potential, and your opponent is your growth. And if you strive to just beat that every single day and outdo the day before, man, it's just a matter of time before you can hit that winner's belt, because there's no incremental growth is good. Like, in other words, you could be doing the right thing, but if I forget who said it, some fucking Rogers or some, even if you're doing the right thing, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you're just sitting there. Who said that? Like
Will Rogers.
Yeah, Will Rogers.
You were right. Good call.
Yeah. So, like, even if you're sitting on the right track and you're just sitting there, you're going to get run over. So always outdo yesterday. Make yourself the opponent, and you're going to win like a sumbitch. Now, my question to you was, you're a junior.
Yes.
Now, which means your dad's a senior.
Yes, he is.
Now, Do you like being a junior?
Well,
if you could choose, would you have changed your middle name to where you got the same first and last, but nope, there's no junior attached? Because I've never been called junior. I'm not a junior. I call my son almost fucking around when I see him. What's up, junior? But I've always wondered if juniors like being juniors.
Well, here, let me tell you something. Well, first of all, we were talking about dumb dad jokes before we hit the record button.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
What happens if you have a kid and you make him a junior? You're no longer a junior.
He's the third. If I would have, I didn't name my sons Alan Stein.
So you're still a junior?
Yeah, you're always a junior. So I'd be a daddy, but I'd be a junior because my kid would be Alan Stein the third.
And what about if he had one?
They'd be the fourth.
And fifth?
Yep.
And sixth? And
so
18th?
I'll always be junior no matter what. So I'm going to be a 90-year-old junior one day. That's kind of weird.
What happens if senior passes on?
Well, he's going to, according to life. That's what happens.
But you'll never be a senior?
No, I'll always be junior. Yeah, it's not. I don't get a promotion. I don't go from junior VP to senior VP when my dad passes away.
Do you like junior? If you could change it, would you change it?
Well, here's what's funny. First of all, if you ever meet my dad, I will bet you everything that I own, which is not a ton. He makes the joke, I'm the original Alan. This is the carbon copy. He does that every time he meets anybody that I introduce him to, but he still loves the joke. I always just went by Alan Stein, and in the basketball world, it was just Alan Stein. When I made the leap over to the corporate space, alanstein.com and the different social handles were already taken. I had to add the junior just so I could get the handles and the website that I wanted. So
you could have went the real Alan Stein.
I could have. Had I known you back then, I probably would have done that. So yeah, up until 2 years ago, I never went by junior. Yeah, or the more handsome Alan Stein. That's a long handle. But I could have done it.
Then it would have been funny at Christmas with your dad.
Holiday. Yes, it would have been.
Interesting perspective. So
yes,
you added the junior. So if you ran into people that know you, they'd just say Coach Stein.
Yes, that's what all of them say.
They wouldn't say Coach Stein Jr.
No. But it was also part of the rebranding that I wanted to kind of change something about as I moved into the corporate space. My dad's a retired principal. Both my parents were in elementary education for 30 years.
Really? Well, yeah. Is he still active?
I mean, he's an active human being, but not active working.
Well,
no,
good.
He's retired.
Well, I want to pick your brain right after this podcast. I've got an invention that I'm going to create again.
Okay.
This one requires educators to help me.
Okay.
I think your dad could help me if he's still active and
yes.
wants to do some work.
And I
know, not a lot of it.
And I know a lot of educators, my friend.
Dude, I'm gonna.
I speak to principals associations and to schools and give graduation commitments.
I'm not even gonna say it on the air because it's so good. People are gonna do it.
Got it.
So I'm gonna do it first.
I got you.
Now, you got a book coming out.
I do.
When?
January 8th.
January 8th, folks. I'm going to drop this episode early just to make sure it hits before January 8th.
Thank you.
Or actually, maybe we should wait till it hits so people can go get it.
They can go put it, yeah.
Okay, so where can they go get it?
Go to raiseyourgamebook.com. It's called Raise Your Game, High Performance Secrets from the Best of the Best.
Raiseyourgamebook.com. Will it be on Amazon?
It's on Amazon now. You can pre-order now, or if you want it in your hands on the 8th, you can get it.
Well, it might be the 8th after this drops.
Perfect.
Who knows? So go get his book, Raise Your Game, on Amazon
please.
Or raiseyourgamebook.com. Go follow him on Instagram. We'll have him back here again, I'm sure.
Would love it.
If you're a company or an organization and you want to freaking take your shit to the next level and get through some of the pain and agony, call Mr. Stein and see if he can help you out, because too many businesses out there are afraid to invest in themselves. Their scarcity mindset, they've got some money in the bank, and hell no, I'm not going to give it to a consultant because then I won't have any. If you don't give it to someone that can help you, you might not have any anyway.
Exactly.
So do yourself a favor, folks. Let go of money sometimes, because money is a tool. And if you don't use it, you're limiting your own ability to grow. Now, until next time.